Okay, so getting back into our coverage over the X-Men, we do pick up with Uncanny X-Men issue number 329 and issue number 330. Now, this is a two-part story arc where it's really more of us wrapping up our coverage over the Sabretooth plotline that took place over in the X titles. And let me explain. You see, when it came to Charles Xavier, he had this bright idea where he believed that he could fix the mind of Sabretooth, turn him into a better person. But after a few storylines, you had Charles realize that Sabretooth is a character that you cannot save at all. And so he had no choice but to go ahead and hand Sabretooth over to the American government. But here comes the big problem though. You see, before he was able to do that, you had Boom Boom kind of express that she was very angry with Sabretooth. And the reason why, because when it came to Boom Boom, while she believed that there was a possibility that he could become a better person, well, she realized that he played her. And so she tried to use her powers against him to do some damage to him. But the problem was that she freed him and allowed him to begin to attack her. Now, she was saved the very last second by Psylocke. But the problem is that Psylocke was not strong enough, really a great fighter, to take down somebody like Sabretooth. And so she got severely injured. And so now we're kind of getting into this two-part story arc where it's Wolverine and Archangel trying their best to figure out how can they save her life, because technically she's on the verge of death. Now, the opening pages of this storyline is also bringing in Doctor Strange. Now, for me, I was kind of surprised to see him. And the reason why, because by this point in Marvel Comics, the 1990s, the X-Men were really kind of on their own. Like, yes, you did see our heroes see other characters like Steve Rogers, Black Widow, or even like The Thing, but they were kind of out of nowhere storylines. For the most part, the X-Men were just on their own. And so to see Doctor Strange in the storyline is pretty cool. Now, for Strange, he had these visions where he realized that three men are going to need his help very soon. Two of them he knows very well. That will be Wolverine and Archangel. But the question is now, who is the third person he saw that's going to need his help down the road when it comes to dealing with things of magic? And so now we transition over to Archangel and Wolverine. Now, remember, in the 1990s, for Archangel, the dude was madly in love with Psylocke. He would do anything for her. And matter of fact, this is the storyline where he declares his love for her. Now, for Logan, he's a close friend of Psylocke, and he kind of realized that they need to find a different special type of way to save her life. Now, for Archangel, over the years in X-Men comics, he had never truly trusted Logan at all because the way Logan acts, the way Logan works. But it's Logan right now saying, listen, dude, for once, you're gonna need to trust me if you want me to help you to save the life of the woman that you are madly in love with. But while you have our two characters heading over to Little Asia, we also see that there's somebody expecting our heroes to come very soon. And so we're kind of left to wonder, who is this brand new character? Now, the reason why you have Logan trying to go more mythical when it comes to saving the life of Psylocke, because what happened to her in the early 1990s? And let me explain. You see, when it came to Psylocke, there was this major storyline where she had her mind swapped and had her mind put into a different body. Well, there was more to that, but the thing was, it was all done by the hand and a few other characters who belonged to that organization. Now, with all that being said, the method used to achieve that type of goal was magic. And so for Wolverine, he says, once you have magic be used in some type of way to alter your life, you're no longer just a regular human. You're now more magical than regular. And so the only way to save you is to use magic. But while you have the two characters at this tea shop talking to one another, well, that is when you have our heroes be attacked by this shadow figure. Now, this shadow figure is kind of being used by another character, but we also learn that this shadow figure is weak to metal. The problem is that around this time in Marvel Comics, when it came to Wolverine, he no longer had his adamantium. And so it's kind of like, okay, cool. Without metal, they can't really win. Well, wait. Because let's not forget, thanks to Apocalypse, Angel wings are now metal wings. And so for Archangel, he had the ability to kind of fight off this creature long enough to allow Logan to find the person who is responsible for this shadow-like figure. Now, at first, we're kind of left to believe it's some elderly woman. And matter of fact, we think for a brief moment that you had Logan kill her off to save their lives. But in reality, there was somebody hiding inside that woman's body, that fake body. And this is where we're going to be introduced to another new character. And that would be a character known as Gomor. Now, when it comes to Gomor, he becomes very important for the storyline because Logan tells him, we're trying to find the Crimson Dawn. Now, the Crimson Dawn will become somewhat important in our coverage over the X-Men, especially as we're in the 1990s for the time being. You see, the Crimson Dawn is two different things. The first is that the Crimson Dawn is an elixir that has the ability to completely heal somebody up, to give them a second chance in life. Now, it's also the same name for a dimension as well. And so for our heroes, their main goal is to go into the Crimson Dawn, get a small sample of the Crimson Dawn elixir, and give it over to Psylocke to hopefully save her life. Now, while you have Gomor, Wolverine, and also Archangel about to leave, well, you didn't have our heroes be confronted by Doctor Strange. Now, for Strange, he kind of realized that he saw visions that told him like, the X-Men are going to need my help very soon. So I should go to Wolverine, go to Archangel, and see if I can help them. And so it's him saying like, listen, I'm going with you guys because I want to go with you guys. And you had Logan say, fine, you may come with us, but we gotta hurry because we already know that Psylocke is on the verge of death. And so this kind of leads us into the second chapter of this storyline. Now, here's the thing, because the second chapter of the storyline is really more of us now seeing our heroes make their way over to the Crimson Dawn. Now, while you have our heroes trying to make their way over there, you do have our heroes be attacked by the Undercloaks. Now, the Undercloaks are kind of like these shadow-like figures who are really trying their best to keep our heroes away from their objective. But you do have the four heroes being able to work together to overcome the Undercloaks. Now, right after that, you didn't have Gomor open up a pathway for our heroes to take. Now, we do transition over to the school of Charles Xavier, because now you have Gambit being the one watching over Psylocke, and this is kind of interesting. And here's the reason why, because there was an earlier storyline where you had Gambit in a coma and you had Psylocke looking over him. But let's not forget, for most of the X-Men, they don't know the past of Gambit. And so you had Psylocke use her abilities to go into his mind to figure out some of his dark secrets. Now for Gambit, he's kind of wondering, did she learn anything about him while being in his mind? And so for Gambit, he's kind of hoping that Psylocke does make it through, but at the same time kind of hoping that she doesn't, because then his secrets are safe. And so for our heroes, well, you do have our heroes embark on this adventure to find the Crimson Dawn. We kind of get into what happened to Archangel in an earlier storyline, better known as Sabretooth in the Red Zone. Now, in that storyline, Archangel got severely injured by Sabretooth, and so he has not fully healed up from that storyline. And so while you do have our heroes trying their best to keep going forward, you have Doctor Strange kind of wondering, why would Logan bring him along? Now for Logan, It wasn't really his goal to bring Warren along with him, but Warren came with him because the man wants to find a way to save the life of the woman he loves. And so Logan's saying, like, listen, I get the idea that you care for the kid, but the kid wanted to come, and I couldn't stop him at all. But while you have our heroes talking about that, they're then confronted by Tar. Now, Tar is the protector of the Crimson Dawn. And so while you do have our heroes try to beg to at least get the chance to get a small sample of the elixir, you have Tar kind of express that he's kind of tired of Gomar, for one thing, but also he's kind of tired of the idea that people just come to him when they need something from him. And so with Gomar no longer being around, it's now just up to the three heroes, Doctor Strange, Wolverine, and also Archangel. Now, for a brief moment, for the sake of the story, we kind of add pressure to it because as we jump back over the school of Charles Xavier, we see that Psylocke is dying. You have Beast and Charles Xavier trying their best to save her life. And for Gambit, he's there hoping for two different things. Like, yes, he wants to see her live, but at the same time, he wants to see her die. And so right now, it's Charles saying, I am not going to let another X-Men die on my watch. And so this kind of leads into, I say, a rush ending, but I kind of get the idea that we're going to explore more of the Crimson Dawn in later storylines. But either way, for Doctor Strange, he kind of realized that the heroes don't have enough time to get a sample of the elixir back over to Psylocke before she dies. And so he says, you know what? I got a better idea. And so what he does next is that he said, listen, Psylocke gave you part of her soul because you two are in love with one another. She has part of your soul and you have part of her soul. And so you have the doctor pull out part of the soul that's in Archangel and say, I'm going to take her soul and put it inside the source of the Crimson Dawn, giving her an instant connection to the Crimson Dawn. And of course, just like that, she is completely healed up. Now, as the book closes, you do have Doctor Strange say, I feel like we're not done yet when it comes to Psylocke and the Crimson Dawn. I feel like the real test to come down the road for her. And so this is where we're going to end today's comic book video and kind of wondering where could the storyline go when it comes to the Crimson Dawn.